Hello.
Hello there.
Hello. I thought I would start the meeting because you're both coming in, both you and Andy are coming in via the main route. So I just wanted to make sure that you were both here. But we won't actually formally kick off till midday.
Ah, that's fine. Yeah, I might be multitasking today, just to warn you. I've retired, so say.
You mean you're going to
I'll end
learn
up,
how to multitask, Rod, now?
yeah, multi-fail probably.
I doubt it.
Yeah, yeah. I try not to turn into one of those ones sort of go, I don't know how I had time to do anything when I was at work. Yeah,
I suspect you'll get to one of those very quickly, knowing you.
yeah, yeah, cool.
But you'd rather
Right.
be busy than quiet, for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Got board of advisors kick-off meeting with the expo dudes as well at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, that does. Andy, that might be because you're in on a different email address as opposed to an organizer, so I might now need to share the content or work out how I give you access.
You might be able to invite him in and then change his status to presenter.
That's what I'm wondering.
Mm.
Um, she says semi-confidently. Um, So I've just sent you a different invite link, which is the original invite link I sent you rather than your Sterling one. Richard says you've accepted. Okay. As everybody's coming in thick and fast, which is great.
I'll go on there, mute and turn my camera off then, Dawn. All right.
Okay, yeah, hopefully. Yeah, hold on.
Good afternoon, everybody.
I can hear you. I can't see you, Andy, but that's probably because you're on a different camera to me, but that's good. If people can hear you and people can see you, then excellent. There we go. I can see you now.
Good. Well then, I am here, honestly. Yeah, and okay, right. Dawn, do you want to, should we kick off?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you want to wait a few minutes or do you want to kick off?
No, I think we'll kick in because I've certainly got 7 pages on my laptop of people dialing in and things, and let's try and keep to schedule. So apologies for being a couple of minutes over midday. We were having a slight technical challenge with Teams. So welcome everybody to this next webinar from Controls and Skills Authority. It should last an hour, but if you've got lots of questions and things you want to discuss with Andy, we'll see how we get on. There is a Q&A facility which I would encourage you to put your questions into, because we can I'll then share the questions with everybody after Andy's finished presenting. If I can see that someone says they can't hear, that's because we were having technical difficulties. Hopefully you can hear us now. So if you could use the Q&A facility whilst Andy is talking, then I can keep an eye on that and we can raise those questions when we get to the end. I think I will just we'll just go straight into the webinar and we'll pick up at the end of it as well. So welcome, Andy, and for your volunteering to run this session for us.
Thanks, Don. Thank you very much. I'm not sure this is going to take us an hour, but it depends how many questions everybody has. So let's get started. Once I start this, I can't see. Dawn, I'm assuming once I start this, you're going to do everything that needs to be done, and so we can get started. Okay. So good afternoon. I want to talk to you today about artificial intelligence, or there are many other names for it, which we probably shouldn't record, but we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and the estimator. And let's be honest, what could possibly go wrong? Let's start going through it. So for those who don't know me, my name is Andy Langridge. I work for Sterling DCS. I'm a director there. I'm a bit of an estimating nerd. I'm also a visiting prof at the University of Bath and a fellow of the Controls and Skills Authority. So I've really enjoyed the whole challenges around estimating. How we make something so simple and take it and make it something quite complex is fascinating. There is a trigger warning for people in the audience of a certain age and belief. Something of what we're going to say in this presentation may actually shock you, because you might actually find some uses for AI beyond what you thought. If you're a delicate composition, please feel free to mute stuff when we're talking about things that might upset you. But you shouldn't be triggered by AI. I see lots of people worried about AI. I see lots of misinformation and fake news, as we now call it. And you need not be worried about AI at this moment in time. So let's get started. Let's just have a little bit of background. I'm a big fan of Alan Turing, and I've read a lot of books about him and things. His original concept was that could we make a universal machine, a universal computing machine, that if you put it in another room, you would be hard pressed to understand if it was a human being or a robot or a machine, a computation machine. So he set this test up in 1950, at the very beginning of computing, really. This stood the test of time for many years. However, now we don't believe that's true. There are now hundreds of definitions, certainly tens of thousands of definitions of what AI is, depending on whose website you read and whose product you go and buy. But actually, they're now saying that just passing the Turing test is no longer considered a sufficient measure of intelligence. Now, it would be interesting, and I've not read any papers that say to the contrary, but it would be interesting to see if anything could actually pass even the Turing test at the moment. I'm sure there will be somewhere. But our whole thoughts around AI, our whole thoughts around machines that could do work for us and interpret the world for us is changing. And I think the next 10, 15 years, it's going to change even further. And we'll be a long way away from Turing's original thoughts. It doesn't mean he was wrong at the time. He was probably very far ahead of his field. Now, there's lots of fake news, lots of fake things you hear on the internet and read in the papers about AI, but I'm not interested in the fake stuff. Well, what's really interesting is, what can it do for us? Well, in our industries, we can really help with data analysis. It's very, very easy to get it to do pattern recognition and to understand and to interpret data. It does exactly the same as we do. It does exactly the same processes that we do, but many, many, many times faster. Okay, we can understand what it's doing. It's not a secret what it's doing. It's just doing what we do a lot faster. It can enhance efficiency. If you're like me and you're a little bit dyslexic, then I find that the tools for helping me write particularly complex papers, they're very, very good. It helps me to be much more efficient. Improve safety. I think we can use, certainly in the IT world, we can use AI to monitor threats and monitor challenges a lot easier, because they can be forever vigilant where we may click on the odd link that we perhaps shouldn't have done. They can filter them out before they get to us. Really useful for predictive modeling, taking big data sets and looking at the future, looking at what's coming on, and running multiple scenarios a lot quicker than we can run. Again, it's not doing anything we couldn't do. It's just doing what we do a lot quicker. You can use it for risk assessment. I've seen some really nice papers on how to use AI for risk assessment, particularly around the management and movement logistics of people, which is very interesting. And then obviously, if we can do all these other things, then we can allow us to optimize where we invest our resource. So we can really optimize our resource management. So none of these things are very threatening. None of them are new or magic or there's no Harry Potter going on here. This is just doing what we do on a daily basis, just quicker. Okay. Now, there are lots of recognized types of AI. Some for me are very benign, reactive machines. These are like things that we use to play chess with, and narrow AI or weak AI, limited memory. In the notes of this presentation, I have put a definition of each of these things. Then we get into the ones that people feel very strongly about. The theory of mind. Could a computer understand our thought process, understand how we think and how we make decisions? That's an interesting one. If it could do that, then it could do a lot more. Self-aware AI, could one ever become aware of its own existence? That's another interesting one. But the one everyone worries about, the one everyone really gets to be concerned about, and one of the ones that they play well in the press and in the media, is super AI. This idea that this machine is going to become all-knowing, all-understanding. It will run our lives for us. It will plan our lives for us, and it will save us from ourselves in many respects. Or will it wipe out the human race? Will it take over from us? Super AI is so far away at this moment in time, that I don't think in our lifetime, well, certainly not in my lifetime, this is going to be a reality. I think some of the others will. I think we're getting very smart, almost teenagers now in AI. I think they've grown up beyond the toddler stage. I think some of them are becoming very, very good. But at the moment, they can only learn within the parameters that the creators set up. Okay, so no need to be scared is what I'm saying. These things we can embrace. Okay, so this is getting interesting. So we're estimators, right? We're estimators. To be honest, no AI. I've heard this so many times recently. No AI is going to do my job. Why do I care? Okay, and I think at this moment in time, that's not an unreasonable statement to say no AI is going to take your job. But I do think we need to care. Okay, so why? Well, our world is changing. I don't know if you've been involved in any of the more complex projects at the moment, but complexity is becoming faster, more and more dependent parts revolving around each other through the design stage, through the design maturity, much shorter timescales to react to incoming information and incoming requirements. We must have wider stakeholder collaboration and try and manage a group of stakeholders using Excel or using, even some of the more modern shared data environments. It can be trying for most people. Digital transformation, I hear a lot, although I'm not quite sure what everyone means the same thing, but we need a digital pathway from the origination of a thing, of an asset, of a design for something, and the delivery of that asset or whatever it happens to be. We need this digital pathway. We cannot have data that is not linked to the point of origination. We cannot interpret ideas without actually coming back all the time to what was originated. So what do I mean by that? Well, if I've got a spec, someone's written the spec, I set up my estimate to the spec, someone changed the spec, I need to change my estimate. If I just read the spec and don't link it to my estimate, I don't have a digital pathway. I cannot see the effect on my estimate of the changes in the requirement. Okay, so we need this digital thread. Some people call it a digital thread. Some people call it a digital pathway. Whatever you want to call it, we have to interlink all the different stages of what we do to make sure everything flows. World politics, we're seeing a lot of this at the moment. World politics is an interesting one, but it is changing the way we have to think about things. Who is our trusted partners? Who are not our trusted partners? And that changes relatively quickly. So if you're in a big global project, as some of the ones I'm working on have been, world politics really does a lot. There are not enough people in our businesses anymore. We have to do much more with far fewer resources, and finding new resources is becoming challenging. If you've gone to look for a young estimator or a young project controls person at the moment, it is challenging. One of the things that's had the biggest impact on us estimators is sustainability, having to change the way we think, not just about cost anymore and time, but about sustainability. And I mean this in the widest possible sense, not just CO2e or change the materials out and body carbon, but sustainability as a whole, acidification, longevity, repurposing. We need to think a lot more now about how we do sustainability. And that puts a lot more pressure on a very small resource in our businesses. But today I just want to focus on three very tangible things, three things that we can do relatively quickly that will actually impact and make a difference on our lives very quickly. Okay, so let's go and grab something tangible. For me, AI is a bit kind of woolly and a bit out there. So let's grab hold of some tangible things that people can do now. So the first one is using AI for quantification. Let's think about how we do measured takeoff or the formulaic generation of numbers, be them cost or carbon. Let's talk about AI for quantification. Now we have to, if we're trying to do anything, we need to quantify what we're doing. Estimation as its simplest form is the quantification of the resources we're going to consume to deliver whatever it is we've got to deliver. Now that can be people resources, it can be technical resources, it can be IT resources, it can be materials and labor and equipment. We're just trying to understand the size, the volume of resource that we're going to consume. So AI for quantification is really quite smart. The first thing is it can read drawings pretty well. You can teach an AI for 2D, you can teach it symbols, you can teach it geometry. It can understand the lines and patterns that it sees. An easy one for this for 2D is, if I want to go and count all the toilets in a block of flats, if I identify a toilet for it, it will go through and find every single toilet. Now you can do that yourself. Where AI comes good is it says, well, not only have you got 72 toilets, but 30 of them are on outside walls and 15 are on inside walls, and the other some I can't actually work out what it's attached to because the drawing's too bad, I can't see it. And it will start to help you think, well, actually I need to treat, although I've got these amount of toilets, I need to start treating them as different installations, because on an outside wall is different from doing it on a partition wall. If you're doing large counts or large measurements, this is really, really quick. You can take off about 80% of the time through intelligent object recognition and classification. However, I have to teach the AI what drawings look like, what models look like. And some of the challenges we have at the moment is our 3D models, our BIM models, they're not yet of a standard where you could just let an AI go off and do something. So at Sterling, what we have is AI with an H loop. The H loop is human loop. So you can't just let the AI go and do your numbers. What you need is to have an AI that does some work, and then you have a human being that checks the work and says, well, this doesn't make any sense, and goes back and you have to tell the engine, the AI engine, what's good and what's not good. That's the only way it can learn, is by you telling it what's good and what's not good. So it takes time to set up these engines. You can only train it on your own data, because we obviously don't want to be going off to the internet with designs and with drawings. We want to keep that in-house. So it does take a little bit of time. Obviously, the more projects you put through, the more reliant you can be on it. Initially, I would say it's not very robust. You need to do a lot of H loop, but as you teach this entity, this machine, what you're doing, then it will become more reliant. Now, the interesting part about that is if you don't do the H loop stuff, it's really quick to get it wrong. So you can save 80% of your time to get it wrong, but hopefully you won't do that. I don't know if you've done a lot of takeoff. I find it incredibly boring. I'm doled out about 10 minutes in, and I'm really bored. And I lose focus on what I'm counting, and I have to keep recounting or remeasuring or doing something else. This minimizes that. It takes out all the dull stuff for me. It gets rid of all the boring stuff and allows me to focus on, you know, the bit where I can add value, which is to look at the numbers coming out and do some validation of what's coming through. The other thing where it's really good is understanding change. So if I've got two models at the moment, it's really quite easy inside most packages these days to compare two models or to compare two drawings and find a difference. What AI will do is not only tell you what the differences are, but start to think about what wasn't quantified. How is that going to impact? You know, if it follows the same pattern as those already quantified items, how would that impact your likely impact on your estimate, you know, kind of early day estimate of what you're doing. It can tell you what the design changes impact will be very early. Now, we already do this using just straight geometry and numbers in Sterling, but putting an AI engine behind that would eventually give us a more robust outcome to that, and it gives us some assurance. So what we're looking for from the real-time updates is the assurance that we can get. And then if you treat it a bit more and you allow it to look across your projects, you can start to get data-driven insights. Tell me what's missing from these drawings. Now, as estimators, and when I teach estimating, I'm always saying to people, you can easily estimate what's on the drawing. A real good estimator can tell you what's not on the drawing. And we can teach AI to do this to give ourselves a scientific outcome rather than a gut feel. We can actually get some science-based information about what's happening. So I think for quantification, I think it's going to be a really, really useful tool set for us. So what's actually happening? Well, I don't want to keep saying this, but it does exactly what we do well already. If you have a good process for quantification, if you have a good tool set for quantification, it only does what you do, but it does it quicker, and it does it without getting bored and without losing track of where it was. The next one I'd like to talk about is AI for scope change that affects estimates. Now I'm limiting what we're talking about because, you know, I don't want to talk about scope change in the bigger, wider world, but how does it affect us in estimating? How does it affect us? Well, scope change is a pain. I've got my scope, set up my estimate, got my number, someone comes and gives me a new piece of scope. The then problem is find out what changed in the scope and where does it impact my cost, carbon and time. How does that change in scope, impact my estimate? We can use what's called natural processing language, NLP, for change requests. We can read and challenge the changes that are coming in. And if we've done the work properly, if we've linked our scope element to our estimate line, our cost line in the estimate, or carbon line in the estimate, if we've done that work properly, the system can say, scope has changed in these 3 things and it impacts these 10 lines in your estimate. Now, I'm not suggesting at this moment it tells you what the change is. I think we need a human loop for that at the moment, but doesn't seem we can't get there. But at the moment in time, I'd be very happy if it said, look, all these change requests have come in, it impacts this part of your estimate, and saves me having to read all the scope, try and find out where everything is. It can extract key details that weren't there before. So the big thing is not to miss something new and to have a look at what's been taken away. So it can give me 3 things. These are new things that you need to put in your estimate because they're not there. These are things that have changed and you need to go and just reflect on your estimate to see if it does need a change. And these things have been taken away, so you need to remove them from your estimate to keep in line with the spec. Again, it's not beyond the wit of man to do that already. It can look at historical pattern recognition. So when it sees all these scope changes come through, it can start to predict things. It can say, well, typically in your past projects, when these changes have happened, these changes are coming along afterwards. So maybe you want to go and poke the client and see if these are coming later on. Or typically when all these things have happened, the client has then pulled out of the project, or we've had to pull out of the project. So you can start to get some historic pattern recognition going. Again, these are things that you can train in-house yourself. You're not looking to go out to, things like ChatGPT, which is in the cloud and open. You're looking to do it locally. The other thing it can do is if you've linked your scope to your estimate line and you've linked your estimate line to your drawing, it can say scope has changed. It affects this line in your drawing, but that part of the drawing hasn't been updated. So it can start to link these things through. Go back to what I said earlier. One of the things that's changing for estimating is we need this data path. We need these data links all the way through our process. So if one thing changes in the front of the process, the downstream ripple is actually being able to use that ripple effect to good use. Okay, so there's no reason why a change in scope can't warn us that the drawing might have changed or should have changed, and we can go and check that, human in the loop. None of this is getting rid of estimators. None of it is doing that at all. So what's actually happening? Just to go back to what I said before, this is actually what we do already. I will read a scope document. Probably in my old scope document, because I'm old, I'd have put notes in it, or I'd have printed out and written on it, highlighted it, and where I'm going to actually put it into my estimate. So I've got that link manually. I'm just going to automate that. And then I would read the new spec and try and see what's changed, or even put it into a word comparison, which will give me what's changed, and then go and see where that affects my estimate. This is just automating that. In fact, for estimators, this is really just automating what we do well. We need to train the AI of what we do well so it will understand what good looks like. Okay, so it's nothing new. There's nothing, I've showed you nothing new or discussed nothing new yet. It's just stuff that we already do. And the big thing for me is assurance. I really think, I've seen some papers recently where people are saying that within 5 years, they'll be able to take a BIM model and generate the whole estimate within a certain percentage of accuracy without a human being around. I disagree. I don't think 5 years is a reasonable timescale for that. I'm not saying it will never happen, but I don't think 5 years is a reasonable timescale for that. What I do think we can do, though, is really leverage AI for estimation maturity. So what do I mean by this? I can get the engine to give me a non-biased score of how good my estimate is. So I can leverage it to improve the robustness of my estimate. I can look at historical data patterns. I can look at the quality of the numbers. How many of my numbers are plugged? How many come from a database? What was the history of that database? What's the validity? How volatile is my underlying database? How often does it change? It can tell us all these things, and it can look at things like how many of my EPDs, which we have to use for carbon calculations, how many of my EPDs are likely to be out of context or out of their life by the time we actually start to do this project. So it can do a lot of these quality checks for us, and it can do them faster. It can compare our project with past projects to do a little bit of internal benchmarking. It can look at things like what is in this project that I've never done before. So I take this estimate, compare it to all my relevant estimates of things I've done before that are similar or analogous. Tell me what's in this that's none of them. Now that's telling me I've got to really focus on those bits because I've never done them before. How am I going to validate my numbers? Tell me what's in other estimates that's not in this one. Okay, so why are these other things not in this estimate? Okay, this is all adding to the maturity. I'm not asking it to change the estimate. I'm not asking it to go fix the estimate. I'm asking it to tell me, given what you know about past projects, past estimates, tell me what's not in this one. And I can be even smarter. I can say, tell me against the estimates that I won, where does this sit? If this is a similar size and a similar project, tell me about the ones I won. Tell me about the ones I lost. Tell me the ones I decided not to bid on. It can do all of this work for you very, very quickly once you've trained it to do it. AI is really scalable. What I love about it is, you can get it to work across multiple teams, multiple portfolios. You can get it to do insight generation really quickly, and it doesn't care if you're doing it in the water industry, the nuclear industry, because it will look at your analogous projects and use that as the basis for its analysis. One of the things I really love that's coming is what I call actionable insights. Tell me where this estimate is weak, and tell me areas where I might need to go and improve it to stand a chance of winning. If I'm doing price to win, or if I'm trying to get a really good budget for what I'm trying to do, this is the one for you. Identify where this is weak, identify where it might need some improvement, and let's go and do that. Now, to do that, you need to teach it what good is. You have to show it what good is. You have to show it what good is not, and you have to be in the loop helping it. And the other thing I really love is that it's got a longevity. I can set off a process monitoring my portfolio of estimates, or my whatever you want to call it, your database of estimates. You can tell it, am I getting better over time? Am I winning more over time? Are my estimates, do I have to make a lot of changes in terms of when I'm negotiating? So what we can do is we can take the original estimate, we can take the mature estimate, we can take the point of negotiation, and we can take where we are, we can bring all this back together. We can say, how did my estimates change between my early day estimate, say my outline business case, my full business case, and my negotiated position? What happened in there? And is there a trend? Can I see a trend? And it will, we'll do that really quickly. We'll do that very, very quickly for you. Now, I'm sorry about being really boring, but that's what we do already. We already do these things. So what's the point of AI? If we already do all these things, what's the point of AI? Well, when I was a young lad, a young engineer, my mentor, Harry, told me, only automate stuff. We weren't talking about AI in those days. We were just talking about factory automation. Only automate stuff if it's dull, dangerous, or dirty. That was his idea. If it's dull, dangerous, dirty, automate it. It's the same with AI. We don't going to get dirty really in doing estimating. Hopefully, you might get to site one day, but you're not going to be in the dirty. What we do is only dangerous when people shout at us. It's not going to. I don't think we're going to be in danger. But a lot of what we do as estimators, given the training we've had, given the experience we've got, a lot of what we do is pretty dull. So let's think about how can I automate using AI the dull stuff that can free my estimating teams to go and do what they should be doing, which is looking at the engineering, looking at the potential for doing things differently, freeing people from sustainability. Instead of calculating carbon as their primary role should be in finding ways to avoid carbon, to replace materials and replace processes with lower carbon processes. So let's take this as a sign of freedom, something that's going to release us from our drudgery, get rid of all the dull stuff as much as possible, and let us focus on what's really interesting, which is finding out how we can do things differently. Okay, so that's AI in a nutshell. But most people are asking me what we should be doing now. What should we be doing now? AI is coming. Okay, you are not going to put the genie back in the bottle. If you think you're going to live the rest of your career without using it, or without somebody in your business using it, I just don't believe you're correct. So in that case, knowing that it's coming, knowing it's a couple of years away yet for being useful for most people, but knowing it's coming, what should we do? Well, the first thing is, you need to get your data literacy updated. You cannot have silos of data anymore. You cannot live in databases that are basically scrambled egg, or you cannot have multiple databases. You need to really upskill your data literacy, and at the minimum, get a policy for data collection, collation, management, and retirement. You need this kind of data policy in place now. How does the data interact with design? How does the data interact with risk? How does it interact with project controls? Have a policy of how things work and how things move. If you're young enough and you really want to know more, take some courses on AI and machine learning. All of us need to be aware. All of us need to have an inkling of how it works. But the younger people on the call, you're going to need to know how to apply it. Okay. Look at the limits of AI as it applies to your business. If you are a three-man QS practice, AI is going to be relatively limited at this moment in time because of the cost of training these things. If you're in a large multinational, have you got funding? Have you got funding to help you explore what AI could do for you in your business, in your part of the business? Right? This is not something you can do on a Friday afternoon. You need to fund proper research internally. I don't mean go off to universities or get a load of consultancy. I mean, get some hours, bookable hours to this, and go and look at what it could do for you. Find where you find stuff dull. Find where you'd like to do things quicker. Find where you'd like to do things more reliably, and start to set up some ideas about it. Digitize and organize your historical project data. This I cannot stress. If you don't have a method of measurement, if you don't have a standard method of measurement for your projects, you cannot really do detailed benchmarking. You have to have a way of looking at it. And I'm not talking about work breakdown structure, because work breakdown structure is exactly what it is. It's work breakdown structure. It's the delivery of this project. What you need is a pan project method of measurement that you know will be the same in whatever project you go to. Okay, now we're not talking about making that go all the way down to level 99. You know, just need the level you want to summarize, the level you want to compare projects. You need to get your data sorted out. Start to collaborate with data scientists and your IT teams, right? So don't think about them as being your enemy. The data scientists, some of the young guys coming through the data science departments now, the mathematical departments, they see things a different way from you. Go and learn from them. They might be young, doesn't matter. Go and learn from them. And IT teams are becoming more useful to us now because they can be enablers for us. I know in the past we've always thought that they may be challenges with them, but that this in terms of this AI stuff, we need them. We have to have them. Embrace continuous learning and be curious. Just get curious. Go and poke, go and look, go and check out what's happening. There's some really, really great podcasts. There's one by James Garner, who's he works for Gleeds and is in the same space as most of us are. Just watch his podcast. Some of it will be completely irrelevant to you, but you'll learn something every time you listen to it. Read his newsletter. They are really looking at the fundamentals of what's changing. Don't try and do it all at once. I've given you 3 things you can do. Don't try and do all 3 at once. Find a way of bringing the AI into your workflow in a controlled way, in a controlled manner. Bring it in gradually, which means you need to start now. Okay, if you think you can wait 5 years and then go and do it, you're too late. You need to start this now. You need to update all of your practices with a vision to the future. It's painful. The worst thing is if you've got a system that was written in the 90s or the 80s, or you're on Excel, you're not going to make the grade. You need to be thinking about what you're going to do next. And to bring a new estimating system in, it can take between 3 months and 3 years, depending on the complexity of your business. But you've got to start now. And then my most important thing is maintain ethical and transparent processes. AI is not a get out of jail free card for not explaining what you're doing. Everything needs to be transparent. It needs to be ethical. And you need to make sure that if you get audited, there is a real workflow that can be followed to see what you do, how you do it, and to make sure everything is how it should be. Now, I just got one final thought for you, and I'm a big fan of Douglas Adams. I think he was far ahead of his time with what he wrote. But in one of my favorite books, it's on the cover is "Don't Panic." Okay, this would be my advice. If you will go away from here with nothing else, don't panic. Okay, I promise you, at this moment in time, you will not lose your job to AI. Not if you're a good estimator. You will not lose your job to AI. I think quite quickly, our jobs will be challenged by people, estimators with the same skill level or similar skill level, who understand AI. So you won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI. And that's it. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Andy, thank you. There are lots of questions. So thank you for those that have put in questions into both the chat and the Q&A. So I'm going to go to the beginning of the questions as opposed to the last ones entered. And first question is, how can we ensure that information shared with AI stays internal and not shared on the internet?
Right. This is another misnomer. AIs do not need to be on the external internet. Okay, you can train an AI. So the AI for quantification, that never needs to go on the internet. That never needs to leave outside of your own boundaries. Okay, so this is one of the things you've got to learn. What AI needs to be external, what AI needs to be internal. I cannot share client drawings on the open internet, on an open like ChatGPT. Can't do it. You have to have your own internal calc. That's why I say you've got to work with a data scientist, you've got to work with IT. These tools do not need to be on the open internet. You need to train them on your data in your within the boundaries of your security.
Brilliant. And I like that question because I think I asked it a couple of weeks ago and got exactly the same as you did, and I just had not appreciated that actually you can set boundaries. So I think it's clearly a question we've all got in our heads. Another one, which are there any estimating software with AI currently on the market?
John, I'm not allowed. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, actually.
No, I did wonder that, but it is there. So I said I'd start from the bottom up. I think the simple answer, Ken, is yes, there are. And there are, I'm going to say, there are a number, I believe. And if you want to approach me after that, I can potentially provide you a list. But we'll move on to the next one. What are some good prompts? Yeah, that's a fair enough answer, isn't it? What are some good prompts for AI to achieve the most of the key benefits?
No idea.
I think
No
it's
idea.
you need to work it out yourself, don't you? I think is
That's why
because you don't know what you want the AI to do.
you got to start. You got to start from the other way around. You got to start thinking about, in your mind, you've got to have a process of data. So you need to set up the data source so that AI can understand what you know, what you have, what it does. And you need to understand the outcomes you're trying to get. Because what you're trying to do is join the data source to your outcomes using prompts. I have no idea. Best one is, this is on my drawing. I want to circle the light switch on my drawing. Go and find me all the light switches. The prompt would be, this is a light switch. Go and find me all the ones that look like it. Okay, you don't need AI for that, but that's a way of doing it. So prompts are contextual depending on your data and your outcomes, and that's why I say you've got to start early. Start early. Start understanding what you want AI to do, and then make sure your data set is sympathetic to those requirements.
Oh, lovely, thank you. So another question coming in. Many organizations will have a lot of historical information, but may not be in a convenient structured database. How do we overcome this problem? Now, I know you did touch upon this, so whether the answer you gave is sufficient, but I thought I would just read the question out again.
Let's think about this. Okay, so first of all, there's huge amounts of data all over the place. One of my colleagues used to work for the MOD, and he found data going back to the 1300s on infantry armor. Okay, so there's lots and lots of data. You need a data policy. How am I going to ingest this data? Because if it's not in a way that you can use it, you haven't ingested it yet. It's there, it's a resource, but you're not utilizing it yet. So how am I going to utilize this data? What of that data looks good, and how do I want to transform it? Now, one of the things you can do, if you can set up those rules, you can train an AI engine to put your historical data, extract your historical data, and put it in a way that you can use it. So but you need to start with the data policy. What are you going to do? AI starts at the other end. AI doesn't start with what are the prompts I want to use. AI starts with what you're trying to do. What are you looking to do? What do I have to fuel that engine? What data is the fuel that powers AI? So get your data right. But you need to get someone in, or maybe you can do it yourselves, but find someone who can sit with you and look at the data set you've got, look at what's worthy. Has your business changed since you collected all that data? I would think so. How much of that data is still relevant? Can I make it relevant by updating it? You know, there's too many questions to answer on here, but you've got to start with the data.
So next one, for automated cost calculation, do you use AI or is it mostly based off machine learning?
They're the two ends of the same thing.
Mm.
Machine learning is a form of AI. Actually, most people these days, even in the systems that have AI, the calculations of cost are done by using formulas, straightforward formulas. That you don't need an AI to do it. What you need an AI to do is to quantify the resources that you're going to use to deliver that thing. I think I don't think you're ever going to get an AI that will just go and tell you what the cost will be. That needs to have some transparency. That needs to have some ethics. Did I use resources properly? Have I made sure that everything is in place? Have I included everything? So that's why I think the first place AI will do brilliantly well is in quantification, and the second place I think it'll do brilliantly well is in estimation maturity.
Lovely. You mentioned the importance of digital thread for the interconnection of related data, e.g. specification or drawing connected to estimate. How does this work in practice? E.g., is there a way of connecting all these detailed data variables in many different systems?
Yes, there is, and some companies are already doing it. The simplest way is to take the scope reference, the chapter and page reference number, and put it as a tag in your estimate. That's the simplest way. But there are people working on this. There are people putting a lot of time into how do we really get rid of data silos. Again, you just need to put some thought in. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? You can do it manually initially, what we used to call a sneaker network, work the process manually so that you know that it works, and then automate it. And then you can train your AI, or you may not even need AI, you might just be able to automate it. Well, AI is a hammer, but not everything we do is a nail, okay? So please don't think you've got to have AI for everything. You haven't.
So that leads into the next question, actually, in terms of would you use AI in this context? So for V&V/assurance, would you prefer this to be human-led, or could AI have a use here too?
I think AI with what's called H-loop. So there's a thing called AI with H-loop. H-loop is human in the loop. So I think V&V is AI to give me to shine a big torch onto my estimate, a big spotlight, and then human in the loop to go and validate, is that a real concern, or do we understand that? If you contextualize your estimates well, if you use a proper structured basis of estimate, AI can do much more, because it can look at the assumptions, look at the dependencies, look at the risk, look at the opportunities, look at the exclusions, and give you a better feel. We are awful at doing that. Many people don't do that very well. So let's have a human in the loop. Let the AI talk to where we need to go, and then the human goes and investigates and says, yeah, that's fine, we don't have to worry about that. Or, oh yeah, I need to go do something about that.
Okay, if 80% will be helped by AI, then how will the 20% be identified? And do I need to check AI has done the work?
Yes, you need to check your AI has done it properly, but you will check less and less as you become more and more convinced or certain that the AI is doing what it wants to do. Yeah, but you need a human in the loop. I keep coming back to this. I just think AI on its own is not, at this moment in time, and I'm happy to be corrected over as we develop, but at this moment in time, you need a human being to check. The AI can do the heavy lifting. You can go and do the kind of final checking.
Lovely. There are some more questions, but I'm conscious that we are rapidly beginning to run out of time. I think what I'll do with the rest of the questions is Andy can see this, and we'll review those and put some notes against some of the remaining questions. I just wanted to share some of the work that we are doing as an authority in terms of other events like the one you've all dialed into here, and thank you for that. I think we had 141 at peak, so that's really great interest in this and ourselves. We are in the process of working with our risk community, and we've spoken about that throughout this as well. We're doing 2 face-to-face events in July and September, details to follow, but two risk events through our community of practice. Our Northeast team, and it is a team, there's about 5 of them, are all going out and doing lunch and learns and then face-to-face networking over the summer period into the autumn, and again, dates to follow. So I think, if anyone wants to be involved, wants to understand more about what we're doing, but also actually what's going on in the industry, as Andy has, really gratefully shared today, please get involved. Please keep an eye on the information that we share on website and LinkedIn, and keep coming to ask us questions about what we can do to help you develop your careers.
Dawn, on that, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, you can find me. I'm pretty much there. But please, reach out. Say you were on this call today, and then let's get talking about where we're going and what we're going to be doing.
Lovely. So I think I will give you all some moments back of your lunch hour. Thank you again, and we'll share the link and the information to you.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Dawn.
Right, I think Andy